What is going on, big strong gamers? It is Ben's turn. Today we're going to be going over PhD and the tiers and the actual gameplay and how it actually works. I mean, if you haven't already, leave a like, subscribe, all that cool nonsense. You know how this goes. And speaking of that, shout out to the homie Mars766, Cuz, and Kason Moser. They subscribe to me, and if you do, I'll give you, yes, the big homie, a shout out. So let's get it. Now, think of this video sort as of a little review for this perk. I mean, it is a really good perk, and starting off with the base ability, no upgrades. The base ability is pretty good. I mean, sliding into enemy triggers an explosion. The size and damage increases the farther you slide before impact. Ultimately, this is, if you guys know what Banana Colada is, or a modded out PhD version, this is ultimately what they did with this perk, and honestly I really like it. It actually is good. It doesn't just drop off immediately. You can kill zombies, I think around to 45 possibly. I've only made it to around about 40 on this map, and it was killing with PhD slider, but you have to get farther and farther as the rounds progress. So then when you run, you know, your charge up, you do a little bit more damage than you normally would. But even with, say, insta-kill, it works. It's kind of weird. You have to, like, slide, but not slide directly into them, because sometimes if you slide directly into them, it'll glitch out and it won't work sometimes. I don't know if I'm bad, but as you can see, if you could stop, like, a little bit before, or just charge it and hit all the way at the end and then hit a zombie, it does the maximum amount of damage. I mean, the base ability for this tier is actually really, really good, and it's actually one of the ones that actually kind of makes sense. It's really good. I really do enjoy it, and yeah, let's just get into the other tiers. Tier 1, I guess I should say, right? Woo, all right, we got tier 1, and tier 1 is actually not too bad. I would say it's kind of like the meh-est of all the tiers, but nonetheless, it is still really, really good. Tier 1 for PhD slider is immunity to environmental damage while sliding. You might be wondering, what the hell is that, and how is it even useful? So think of it on Forsaken, because let's be honest here, you're going to be playing Forsaken, you're not going to be playing any other maps as of this moment. Think of the boss, the Abomination, when he has that little shock thing. I try to get it on here, but it's a little hard, but he will try to shock you, and say you're sliding, you're not going to take damage to that. And also, say if you throw down a Molotov, you know, if you slide through it, you're not going to take any damage, which is really, really good. And I've tested it a couple times. I didn't get the Molotov, but the Abomination, he can attack you, and you can slide some of the damage off. If you're playing and you know how to correctly use this, it's actually a really good tier, but it's more of a practice thing, so you can actually learn the ropes of it. It is kind of hard. I mean, if you're not really paying attention to your surroundings, you're not going to be able to slide away off some damage. But I mean, hey, you can take no damage while sliding, ultimately, to environmental effects. I mean, you could still, you know, be swiped possibly, but at the end of the day, it's still a pretty solid tier, and it will help, especially with like bosses. I would say if you don't have Ring of Fire equipped and you don't get that kind of negated effect, it's a pretty good tier. I mean, I'll take it, to be honest. Let's just let's get into tier 2 gamers. That's what we're looking at. Tier 2 is definitely one of the better ones, and it sounds very simple, but nonetheless it is really good. Tier 2 is increased slide duration. As you can tell with this, I slide a lot faster, okay? That is because of tier 4, but tier 2, on the other hand, you get to slide for so long. I mean, the longer you run, the longer you'll be able to last in terms of your slide length. Relatively, if you just slide automatically, it's still a pretty good difference. I mean, as you can just tell, you can slide very far, very quickly. This will be really useful for, say, speed runs alongside with Stamina Up and Ether Shroud. I didn't really test it with Ether Shroud, but nonetheless, it is still really, really good. I mean, you can get out of a lot of situations with this thing. And another cool thing as well, you could spin in circles also to increase the duration. So you might get a little dizzy from you spinning around in circles, but it's for a good reason as well. I mean, you can literally just charge up your little super sprint, or super slide, I should say, and get out of many situations like that. And it will combo with the explosion as well. So it's like everything about this perk just ties in together perfectly. And it can get you out of a lot of situations, and this is one of my favorite tiers in this whole category. Like, being able to slide faster is cool, but the duration is really what matters at the end of the day. And if you jump off ledges as well, or slide off rails, you're going to be sliding super far, super fast, and honestly, it's a great addition, even though it is extremely simple. I love it. Now, tier 3 is ultimately just PhD Flopper. immunity to self-inflicted explosive damage. This isn't just with, say, explosive weapons, but just as a whole. So for a couple of you who might get confused, so say for example, I'm using this M27 whatever, right? You know, I'm not doing any damage to myself, you know, pretty good. It's doing a lot of damage, right? If you pair this alongside with like a C4 or a Simtex, you're not going to do any damage to yourself, which is really, really nice. And honestly, it well needed. I mean, you could see the C4 might take some damage from these zombies here, but the C4 is not killing me, and this will really, really make C4s a lot more viable, especially with Mule Kick if you can buy them and get a little bit extra in terms of the C4. Really, this just makes all explosives in the game just really good and just useful. I mean, C4s really destroy your armor, all that nonsense, alongside with these other weapons like the RPG and also the M27, and you know, it really does turn to be actually sort of a good tier that we usually don't get, especially on tier 3, and it makes up for us not getting PhD Flopper and Set Slider, but they just paired them together, which is also really, really nice, and it makes it really, really viable. So we do have tier 4 now, and man, oh man, is it good. Like I said earlier, increased slide speed. This really works well with tier 2, mainly because, well, you know, increased slide duration goes pretty good with slide speed as well. You can really go really far with this. And another thing also that this one does is same as tier 2, you have to run longer and like a farther of a distance for it to actually work a little bit more and better. This is definitely the most noticeable tier in terms of the actual perk itself, because, well, you're running, you're sliding, you're gonna notice you sliding a lot faster. You might not notice the duration of the slide as much, but definitely for sure it's got to be this one mainly. You know, even if you don't use explosives, these two tiers alone make it so where you could actually use the perk itself and it not just be strictly only explosive, which is nice. And you know, you get a little bit extra damage on terms of your slide as well, which is also really nice. And yeah, that's really it for about tier 4. Really nice, useful. But tier 5, on the other hand, it is the flopper part of this perk. Now, you might not be able to flop, but you can slide or jump off a ledge no matter what, and it'll do a splash damage. The higher you drop, the higher you fall as well. You're going to do a lot more damage, and you could actually kill zombies with it. And I'm not sure as to the actual round. It starts like a kind of meh, but if you don't kill the zombies, they'll take damage and get stunned, which is, you know, obviously nice, because you don't want it to just be just not doing any damage or anything like that. I will say you kind of have to go out of your way in terms of just killing with this thing, because most of the time you're not going to be jumping off ledges just to kill zombies. You might if you need ammo or points really badly, but it's more of just a fun thing, as the original PhD Flopper was, which is pretty cool. I really want to see this, and I will probably test this. I want to test this out with the outbreak sort of jump pads. It would be really cool to see that and see if you do a lot of extra damage, because you don't have to be on an extremely high ledge to actually kill. So if you get it pretty high like that, it'll be definitely interesting. But I mean, yeah, that really wraps it up for PhD Flopper. Really good perk. I give it a 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10. It's all useful all around. But if you made it this far, you deserve a cookie, and I love you. Make sure you check out the links in the description, all that cool nonsense. You know how it goes. But gamers, I'll see you guys next one. Have a wonderful day. See ya.